Hi, I'm Dr. Lindsey, and this is the Leading Notes podcast. I'm here today with Dr. Colleen, who is my significant other, my current main squeeze.
That's how he introduced me to his family the first time. His current main squeeze.
That was good. That worked. They got it. It's lasted how long? How long have we been married?
Almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years, so that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
All right. I have some questions. Colleen and I have been talking about this. I really, really, really want folks to hear your story because it is not just because you're my wife, but because I believe it is massively important. I think, let me give you, it's on our website. It says, we believe that the key to living your best life is found in understanding who you are and realizing your potential. And nobody really that I know of right now exemplifies that more than Dr. Colleen, to be honest. She's just magnificent. I can't say enough about her. And again, it's not because I'm married, just I think she has a story to tell. And I think so many times we're used to hearing, a bunch of stories from someplace and we don't hear the right ones. So this is a great one, and we're going to let her talk. I'm going to ask her some questions. Obviously, I lived through it. So, there'll be some negatives towards me. I don't know how, but we'll work through that. Maybe you can find some part of yourself in all of this as well. So let's think about that and kind of work through it. So let's get started. Dr. Colleen, if you don't know, is a speaker, author, and a teacher in public schools for over 30 years.
I started when I was 10.
Yes, she looks so young to have been doing that so long. Let's see. She holds bachelor and master's degrees from Baylor. Go Bears. Do you want to? It's Sikkim, whatever it is. Yeah, green. Anyway, and a PhD from the University of New Orleans. I have no idea what their mascot is. Football wasn't a thing at the University of New Orleans. If it is now, we're sorry. Don't send us emails or do, and I'll just ignore them. So it'll be fine. Let's see. We have 3 kids, and they're all adults. Ish. No, they are. No, they're doing great. 2 of them live in North Texas and one with us here in San Antonio, but they're great. And you'll hear us if you watch 2 Minutes to Parent or any of our parenting conferences, you hear about them. At some point, we want to have them actually on the podcast.
We're just waiting for that because we know we have to brace ourselves because they like to be really honest. And we did not do the parenting thing spot on the whole time. Yeah, I know. What? We understand how to be good parents by having done it really wrong at times and lived through our mistakes. So
there you go. Yeah. We'll work through that. That's another story. Other things you can find on the website. But let's start with a picture, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen here just so we can see it.
So while he's doing that, just a little background information that I think is going to become very plainly evident here in a second. Weight has always been a struggle of mine. I think I went on my first diet before I was a teenager. And so this has been an ongoing concern for me my entire life, really. Certainly all my adult life. I was a very, very, very small child until I hit puberty at a relatively early age. And like most people, certainly most women, that struggle is not unique. And I have tried just about everything, some more successfully than others, but it has been an ongoing piece in my life. If you are anywhere near my age of being 35 or a little older, then perhaps you are familiar with some of the culture in which I was raised. Where thin was in, and to be overweight was really considered a character flaw and a personal problem that should have been solved somehow through self-discipline or better habits or just don't eat that much kind of an idea. And there's a whole lot of reasons why things happened. The picture you're going to see happens to be at absolutely not my highest weight, which is a bit alarming, but it was right before I began taking some significant intervention to take care of this.
And there it is. There's
we
the
go.
picture.
So that was taken in late 2018, November, I guess. And so I had kind of reached my rock bottom, if you will, earlier that year. I have described it kind of like being an alcoholic. I am a recovering fat person. Gosh, that's a terrible way to say it. But in much the same way that an alcoholic recognizes that they are never completely free, I am very aware that my vigilance and my maintenance is really based off of me being diligent. And
Okay. So how much have you lost? Because I'm going to throw a picture up at the end because I want you to see her now. Or you can go to the website and see the picture. It's radically different. I'll tell a story. Where were we?
You doing the grocery store story?
Yes. Yeah. It's been a year and a half, 2 years ago, I guess.
A little more than that probably, but yeah.
But I got so frustrated, I couldn't find her in the store, which is normal. The kids call her a runner because she runs through the store and you lose track of her. But I was frustrated and I was like, where is she? And literally I look and I just missed her. I couldn't even see her. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're here. And she was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't even know who you are. I didn't even see you. So yeah.
So I've lost about 150 pounds, which is roughly half my body weight.
How long did it take you?
I lost the first 140 in about 9 months, I think. It was right a year or so before COVID. So I finished all of that, did about 6 or 8 months worth of maintenance, and then COVID hit. And as you know, that kind of threw everybody's world a little upside down. And I came through that relatively okay. I think I may have put on maybe 10 pounds. And then I had 2 really enormous life challenges that hit really hard. And both of those left me floundering. And I went to the one best coping mechanism that I had in my life. And without any better understanding of myself, it was my only tool. And I put on about half of my weight back. And so...
Okay, so let's go back, though.
Okay.
Because there's a story before all of that. This is the initial thing. Let's go back to the very beginning, 2018. That picture was up. That's where you were. You know, you talked about it. Lifelong struggle with weight, normal. But what brought you to the point? You actually made a pretty huge life-altering decision.
Well, I did. I came, there's a lot that goes into these things. These are never snap decisions that any of us make. Okay. And so to kind of keep it a little briefer, ultimately, one of my kids wanted to join a gym. They needed me to drive them, and I needed to be an adult on premises while they were there. And I knew enough to know that I certainly needed to at least participate in some capacity. And so I got on the treadmill and I walked. It was the least conspicuous thing I felt like I could do while still supporting my kid. That process began. We looped others in the family to join in. We got a trainer to teach us how to use machines and started strength training and all that. But I spent a lot of time on that treadmill because it was a comfortable place for me. And I knew that I could do that without hurting myself. It did not take very long. I think it was because I was finally giving myself a yes. I finally was giving myself a do this instead of don't eat that, don't do this, you're not allowed to. It was a, yeah, go do that, do more of that. And I started walking with an incline some and walking a little bit faster, and it gave me a boost. for lack of a better word. And I began really seriously considering how much I needed to change and if I was willing to actually do it. I had experienced those moments before. I clearly remember one several years prior. And I remember suggesting to Daryl once again, hey, we could limit what we eat or change it or take a walk.
I was incredibly supportive.
He was. He, I think, stomped his foot and in a very much of a temper tantrum and said, I will not give up chicken fried steak and mashed potatoes and whatever else was on his bucket
Texas,
list. Yeah,
so
I know. Southern boy.
Yeah.
And I remember very clearly being resigned to, I'm always going to be fat. Because I didn't think that I thought if I didn't have his support, it would be impossible. So I knew walking on that treadmill that I couldn't count on him to be on board, which is okay. Not my job to drag him along, but I knew I needed to make a decision that was going to be enough for me. And so it was not an overnight thing. It really did take me a number of days, weeks to really process through. And I knew that probably because of my size, if I were to see anybody, this is prior to the GLP meds being available to anybody who was not diabetic, I knew that my doctor was probably going to suggest that I do a gastric bypass. That is a radical surgery. It means a radical shift in your digestive system for the rest of your life. There are a lot of complications that come along with that, and I was very aware of that. And I knew that I needed to be willing to do whatever it took. And if that meant that for the rest of my life, I would be required to take vitamins or eat 19 meals a day in order to keep it all down or whatever, then I knew I needed to pursue that. And what had previously been unaffordable and unattainable because of insurance regulations and concerns with us, I knew that had just been changed for our insurance. And so I made a very difficult phone call. And I went in to see a surgeon who assured me that he really felt like a gastric sleeve would be fine. Gastric sleeve, instead of rerouting the entire digestive system, it literally takes, I think, probably akin to what we probably called stomach stapling when we were younger. It just makes the stomach significantly smaller. And in the process, it eliminates some hormones that the body naturally produces, etc. Mm-hmm. He told me that most patients are not hungry afterwards. That was not me, unfortunately. But I felt encouraged for the first time in a very, very long time. And in my education process and all the pre-surgical pieces that I had to complete, one of the physicians who actually ended up doing my surgery said in a video, and I will never forget this, he said, you can hang a picture on the wall by using your shoe to tap the nail in. It's just not particularly effective, and it's going to take you a really long time. And I can hand you a hammer, and it's going to be a whole lot faster. And that's what they did. They gave me a hammer. And initially, I think that a lot of us want to believe that that's all it takes. I can have that surgery, and I'm done. And that's not it at all. It was a good tool. I knew enough, I'd educated myself enough to know that there is a very brief window when the body responds particularly well to that surgery. And if you can follow the surgical protocols precisely, and you can maximize that weight loss during that very small window, then your chances of keeping it off long-term are better. And you've used the tool to the best of its ability. So I knew that going in, and I followed that diet very, very, very strictly. But I went into it knowing that I was going to have to be able to do it flying solo.
Okay, so I want to ask this question. I know the answer. How did your family initially respond to your decision?
So my initial decision was I need to continue working out. I knew that at the very least I had to walk. that strength training was probably going to be a good, important part of that. And I learned a lot more about that as I moved through. And so I came to Daryl. At the time, he was working until midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. I got up to teach school. So I'm getting up at the crack of dawn anyway, right? So we were kind of passing ships in the night anyway. So it didn't really matter to him, I perceived, if I just shifted my bedtime, my wake up time to accommodate that. So I told him, I said, I think I'm going to get up at 4 in the morning before school, go to the gym, work out, come home, shower, clean up, make my lunch, all the normal things I do, and then leave from here. I didn't like the idea of showering at the gym and then having to deal with sweaty clothes, and it didn't work for me. And I knew enough to know that I needed to do it first thing in the morning. That much I'd figured out about myself. I don't think I would call it receptive.
Just like, I called it crazy.
He
actually
did. Yeah.
I did. There's more to the story, but yes, I will say I was very worried about you. So I'll give my side of this. Oh, wow. So her willingness to look at this thing posed many, many, many problems for me. A lot of problems. Which we'll do our own podcast. We'll do mine later. But my own fears and my own concerns quickly came around. And I knew that I had to work through that, but, facing that truth. And so while I would if you'd ask me then, are you supportive? Yes, I'm supportive. But subconsciously, I don't think I wanted it at all. And it really, I was just afraid. I was afraid for her and for me and what it would mean. Change is hard.
So he called me crazy.
Yeah.
And I assured him there were a gazillion and a half people who got up and worked out every day before they went to work. This is not a hard concept to consider, right? And I did it. I started going to bed really early. Yes, my children made horrible fun of me, and I don't think I cared. And I got up, and there was this small contingency of us that would arrive at the gym at 4 or so in the morning, and we'd wave like, yes, we are the few that are willing to get up really early and do this. And very quickly, one of my good friends said that she'd read about motivation and read about how to change your habits and change your life. And one of the things that this expert that she read had suggested is that you create for yourself rules. Eliminate the number of times that you have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to follow through. And we talked at length about that, to the point that I slept in my workout clothes, so that literally I got up and threw on socks, shoes, etc., brushed my teeth, and I was out the door, minimizing that. I also elected to work out 7 days a week. Later, a fitness instructor told me that I really needed to take a break and take a day off to give my body a chance to rest. And I allowed that. This is probably a full year later. And went back to her within a very short period of time and said, okay, that does not work for me. Because then I play that mind game of, okay, well, I'm supposed to sleep in on this day. Oh, I could sleep in today instead. And that began that spiral. And so I went back to her and said, okay, give me what a resting day for my body looks like in the gym. So those were the days I literally just walked on the treadmill at a slow, easy pace, but I had myself there every single day. I needed that kind of consistency to make it work for me. So all of that falls into place by that fall. I have surgery much later that fall. And so marching into 2019, I continue that, and I'm able to keep that up and pull off the vast majority of the weight. So that was kind of sort of the beginning of things.
So you alluded to it a while ago. You failed at some point.
At keeping it off.
Yes. Yeah. How many pounds did you gain back?
I gained back about half of it, so roughly 70-ish.
70 pounds. And you're going to see by that picture.
Not overnight. It did take me some
Oh, yeah. No, it took. She alluded to it. But I will tell you this. I'm going to be proud. It's all gone and more. She's now at her lowest weight ever. And so how did you recover from that? What's the thing that you look at? How did you begin to recover from that?
Again, there's a lot of factors. And I think the two biggest factors that played into me being able to pull that weight off a second time and really, for all practical purposes, keep it off. First and foremost, you got on board. And I had Daryl, I know, I had him all of a sudden saying things like, no, we don't need ice cream after dinner tonight. The second thing that happened is I began seeking some professional care. I naively always said, oh no, I don't have an emotional eating problem. I don't eat when I'm upset. I mean, I eat when I'm upset, I'm happy, I'm frustrated, I'm whatever. I mean, I couldn't see the correlation. I couldn't draw that connection. I just was kind of unaware and unable to see that within my own life. And so I've teased several people recently who are like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? I'm like, a whole lot of therapy. Because I think that is a huge component for most of us, is figuring out what is the thing behind the thing, what's driving this, what's pushing me along on that path that's really not where I want to be, but I seem to end up there anyway.
Very good. If you could do something different about this process you went through, what would that be? She told me this question was going to be hard, so.
Because a part of me for a long time was, well, why didn't I do this umpteen years ago, right? I mean, I've lost some amount of weight. Why haven't I kept it off? It's been very frustrating, right? And I spent a good chunk of time that first year or so really living in this, how much of my life I've wasted, I felt like, because I was limiting myself, limiting the activities I was willing to participate in, etc. But I really came to understand and recognize that that's unfair to me. It also completely discounts the experience and the validity of it. I would not be who I am today having not gone through that. I would not have the depth and compassion and wealth of empathy that I do for anybody struggling through those challenges. I don't think that this is a weight loss specific struggle. I think a lot of us have issues and concerns in our lives, habits that we would like to change, things we would like to do differently on a more consistent basis, and it's just hard to make some of those radical shifts.
So, what are some of the lies that you hear about this entire process of losing weight, that I took the easy way out because I had surgery? Or the people who use the medication take the easy way out, that it's just a crutch or whatever? And that's a lie that I hear within my own head at times. It was a tool. It was effective, but it's not a guarantee. There's any number of people who have had surgical interventions or who have tried other things that it doesn't work. It didn't work consistently for me because I didn't address the underlying issues. There were obviously things going on in my world that I felt I couldn't do anything but eat to cope with. And without any other things in place, that's kind of where I was stuck. And so I think that the lie we all hear is that it's either just stop eating. Just stop.
If you just had good self-control.
I
had a lot of self-control. I had a lot of, I I'm a pretty determined little person. I managed to get a PhD while raising 3 kids, working full time. I can do the self-control, power through thing. This really had very little to do with that. And so a lot of those lies that I think float around are often born out of ignorance, not understanding, not being fully aware of what all and how multifaceted obesity really is as a condition.
Well, I think that applies, especially in our society right now. Everybody's looking for a one-line simple solution. We have these huge complex problems, and somebody's, well, if you just do this, then it'll be okay. Rarely does anything have just one part to it. It's I learned from Rob Bell. He always asks the question, what's the thing behind the thing? There's always a thing behind the thing. And I think that's the case for everything. So in all kinds of issues, that plays out with us. And I think ignorance is probably a good idea. There's a lot of you who I say struggle with weight, and you're struggling to lose 2 or 3 or 5 pounds. That's not what we're talking about. Okay. That's not it. These are massive issues. Weight may not be your issue, but I guarantee there are other struggles in your life. Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it is work. Maybe it is finances. There are all kinds of things, and there's all kinds of things that tie up into that. Maybe it's just, loving yourself, loving your kids. How do you spend time at home? Maybe you work too much. All kinds of those things. I think, again, we want to slap one thing on them and make them okay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything that's that straightforward anymore.
So what do you do? What do you do if your partner doesn't get on board with you? How do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a rough one. Because I spent a really long time without that support. And I really did have to kind of, I think, hit rock bottom before I was willing to strike out on my own, essentially. I had to have made the decision enough that I could resist the temptation that he might present. Or
chicken fried steak?
Yeah. I made very few demands. I came to that point of saying, okay, these are the cuisines I find it difficult to eat well and stay on plan at, so can we avoid those? But we still had kids in the house. We still had other people that needed to eat a variety of foods, and I was the only one really trying to limit what type and how much and all of that. And that's okay. It was my journey, and it needed to be my journey.
There's a joke to that. The kids always make fun of her because she wouldn't eat whatever we had. She'd usually eat a lot of what we were eating, but she had like a small amount because that's one of the parts of the surgery and other things. Well, our meals are just way too big in the United States anyway. But the kids would say, she would say, "Oh, I'm hungry," and they would go, "Oh, let me just get a half an almond and a slice of apple thin, and we'll be good." Which she's eating a little more than that, but not a lot. But the thing is, she adapted, and that was a joke, and I think I reacted that way. Number one, it's just unusual to see. I mean, we're so tied into eating and weight and all of those things. So that was different in and of itself. But I think it probably talks to we just didn't understand in a lot of ways, I think.
That's fair.
And I would say again, and there's always a thing behind the thing. So my unwillingness to be supportive really had to do with all that's going on with me that honestly through a lot of therapy we're getting better on. It's never finished. We're working on it, but that's where that's the thing that came out. So what advice do you give to people who are feeling a need for a change but just don't know where to start? So maybe they're unhappy at their work. They're unhappy in their marriage. They're unhappy in their weight. They're unhappy, with the way they're raising their kids. They don't feel good about it. Family relationships, whatever it is, personally where they are. What's your advice to them?
I think there's 2 steps. One, whatever you think the fix is, it's not going to fix it. Losing weight did not fix me. Absolutely not. It was fixing me that has helped me keep the weight off. It kind of was a backwards thing in that sense. I figured out many, many years ago, and I think I've heard this reiterated lately by somebody else. If I spend my entire life waiting for the next big event, so I think a lot of us tend to when we're growing up, I can't wait till I'm 16 and I can drive. I can't wait till I'm 18 and I graduate. I can't wait till I get to here, get to there, get to this. And we look for those next major milestones. And I recognized before we even met and married that I was going to wish away my life waiting for those next milestones that I thought were going to bring me joy. I thought they were going to finally make me feel good. And included in that was if I would just lose weight, then I would finally be happy, fulfilled, capable of whatever. And that's just not the case. So sitting in a position of being frustrated, sitting in a position of feeling helpless and hopeless, and boy, I'm familiar with that. And I'm familiar with that even at a current space like that can't exist even within the successful steps I've taken. And I find for me, and I think sometimes for you as well, it's helpful to go listen to other people who can encourage me along a better thinking path, to remind myself that it's not some accomplishment, some promotion, some payouts, some kids, some, whatever that next step is not going to bring me the happiness I think I'm going to have. Do not get me wrong. Losing over 100 pounds was an incredibly great high. And for the first time, I think, since being an adult, I enjoyed shopping for clothes and buying them. And I enjoyed a lot of other pieces of life that I didn't feel like I'd had access to before, which oddly was a really nice mask for a lot of the stuff that was still underneath. That it wasn't until I stumbled and realized I had to reach out and get some true help. And through counseling, was able to kind of figure out, okay, these are the underlying issues that I need to compose time with, deal with, and handle so that then I could truly relish in some of this success and some of the freedoms I've gotten from it, and yet continue to feed my mind the healthy messages that keep me here.
Very good. Couple of notes. We're not doctors. Well, she is, but
I'm not the good kind that actually helps people. That's what
right.
they've reminded me of my entire career. It's awesome.
So we don't give medical advice. We are not counselors. We are not therapists. We are coaches, and we provide things to help, ways for folks to help see the good that is in them and bring that out. We help you to find the solutions that are already there, that we just facilitate working those out. Therapy is a thing. If you feel like you need therapy,
you probably do.
Go. Yeah. Take a chance. Therapists, you have to find one that you like, and it may take 2 or 3, but go ahead and do that. Find a doctor if you are looking for some healthy options. Go and find a doctor. There are specialty weight loss places. Again, there are lots of tools you can use. That's the point of all of this. Not to give you any advice or send you in a direction. The point is to say, hey, there are changes that can be made, and no matter the circumstance, you can be the best you can be. You can live your best life. It's possible.
And I think one of the things that, I didn't mean to cut you off, one of the things that I figured out along the way is that this second weight loss piece was a radical shift for us. Not only did he join me on board, but he and I began to recognize and really pay attention to our thinking habits and some of our practices and daily habits and how they were affecting us, and what our mindset was, what we considered to be options for us. And I think that not just the physical getting on board with one another, but the shift that we were able to make there really amplified our ability to actually change. So not only do we learn about ourselves and recognize some of our potential and find some tools and mentors and books and speakers and podcasts to listen to that really support and help that, but we began making steps forward toward a more thriving life, one that's fuller and richer. And that process has been the thing that I think we both grasp and hold on to. That's what actually I think is making the difference for us, more than doing this to lose weight or doing this to be healthier or stop this habit or replace or whatever. It is this incredible shift we've kind of gone through. That, I think, is where we're sitting at this point in time, of saying we want to help others find that. Recognize who you are and what your potential is and dive toward it with gusto. So that's what I think we're trying to do for ourselves and those around us, and now you guys as well.